Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. A gentleman in business that I really respect recommended I meet Jeff Oberman and said he's got a fascinating way to buy real estate, and a different way to buy real estate than what sort of I would normally have thought of. Jeff Oberman is my guest tonight, and he owns two different companies, and one of them is OntarioTaxSales.ca. And sorry, sir, the other one was called?
Real Tax.
Real Tax. And what you do, I understand, is that you buy properties that have got taxes owing on them, and you've got a good system of finding out what those opportunities are and a good strategy of how to buy. Is that correct?
Close, but not exact.
Okay.
We don't own these properties. These properties are still owned by individuals or corporations. The properties have fallen well into tax arrears, and now the municipalities now have the right to sell these properties. So we act for the municipalities to help them through this process. And we also help people buy these. We connect the buyers and the sellers. And
are there that many properties that are being sold by municipal authorities because people are in arrears on taxes? Seriously, really?
In a typical year, 700, 800, 900.
700 to 900 homes every year sold by different municipalities because the homes are in tax arrears. Really?
Not necessarily homes. It could be vacant land. It could be farmland or commercial land, environmentally protected, all kinds of land, but not all homes.
Really? That's fascinating. Jeff, let's take a step back. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got into this business.
Okay. Way back when, I guess when I was in university, I figured out my career ambition was to come up with an idea nobody ever thought of before, and then turn that idea into a booming business. And about 10 or 12 years later, I got the idea. I learned that municipalities had a real problem collecting realty tax arrears, or what we call property tax arrears. There was legislation in place that gave municipalities an almost foolproof way to recover this money. But using that legislation was very time consuming. It took expertise most places just didn't have. And it was very paper intensive, and there was no software available. So they were using typewriters. So then I thought, okay, if I were to automate this whole process, learn what to do, I could then do most of the work for them. And then by law, they take my company's fees and they charge them back to delinquent taxpayers. So I launched the company Real Tax in 1996. And now most of the municipalities in Ontario use Real Tax. We have about 230 municipalities using us right now.
Which lists the properties that are in tax arrears?
Actually, there's quite a lengthy procedure the municipality has to go through first before they can list these properties. If you fall into tax arrears, they can't just say, well, Brian, we're selling your property. It's a little more complex. When you're at least the second year of arrears and you've had arrears notices, warning letters, maybe phone calls, and you haven't done anything, then they get to the last resort, which is sending the work to Real Tax. So what we do is we register a lien on the property. We follow legislation provided by the Municipal Act. We register a lien on the property. Then we send a notice to the owners of the property, the spouse of the owner, anyone who holds a mortgage or a lien. Send that notice by registered mail. It advises that a lien has been registered. They now have 1 year to either pay the tax arrears or make agreeable payment arrangements. If they don't do one of those, the property is going to be sold. So
sorry, you do that. The municipality doesn't do it. You do it on behalf of the municipality?
That's right.
And this is Real Tax that does this?
Correct. Yeah. So we do most of the work for them. They're still the ones that sign the notices and give us permission to register the liens. We can't do anything until they say, yes, go ahead and please do that.
Okay. And so when you start sending those notices and to the owner's spouse and stuff like that, do most people pay off?
Yes, they do. Yeah. It's a 1 year long process. We've sent a notice. About 9 months later, we send a final notice. Between the two, the arrears get paid about 85% of the time, which is good. That's what everyone wants. We just want, to get the municipality to recover their tax arrears.
Yeah.
When nobody pays the arrears for a year after the registration of that lien, then the municipality can proceed to the next step, which is actually putting the property up for sale. So again, it's a very complex process. It takes very specialized expertise, and we do most of the work for them and then guide them through the process. And And of course, when they're actually putting the properties up for sale, we're sitting by the phone. If they have any kind of problem, crisis, questions, they just call us right away, and we're on it. Say, you can do this, but don't do that. So they love us for that, because this is the last place they ever want to make a mistake.
Yeah, for sure. So you do all the work for the municipalities, making it easier for them to collect on property tax arrears. You send out all the notices, you place the lien, you do all that process over the course of the year, but then you turn around when it's actually sold and you put that information out in your system, so that you're also the marketing agency that gives people the opportunity to buy the house. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. What happened, we noticed many years ago that these properties are put up for sale for usually a fraction of market value, and the success rate was less than 40%. Most of the time, nobody bought the properties, so the municipality didn't recover their tax arrears, and they incurred even more costs. So we kind of looked at my coworkers, and I said, why do so many of these properties fail to sell? And it was easy to see why. When the property is advertised, the municipality has to follow the legislation. The legislation says you have to advertise the property once in a publication called the Ontario Gazette, which most people have never heard of, and you have to advertise it once a week for 4 weeks in a local newspaper. Now, if your local newspapers say the Globe and Mail, that's great. If the local newspapers say, I don't know, the Perry Sound Examiner, not that many people are going to see it. So very limited scope of advertising. The ad itself would say something like, properties for sale, part of Lot 5, Concession 10, $24,822. For more information, contact Fred Tax Collector at the town of whatever. If a real estate agent listed your house and that's what the ad said, would you be pleased?
No.
Of course not. So we have very poor advertising, very limited in scope, hence most tax sales failed. Said, okay, why don't we put the information together, put it on a website. Also, another thing is most people had no idea how to buy a tax sale property. There's no real estate agent involved. There's usually no lawyer involved. People are just sort of on their own. So we've said, let's put all the information together. We know how the process works. So we created step-by-step instructions on how tax sales work, how to buy these properties. Then we put together proper advertising, pictures of the property.
Right.
Is it a house? Is it vacant land? Is it a ditch or a swamp or a castle? Is it waterfront? What is it? Give people the information they need to know. And that's how OntarioTaxSales.ca came in. So
what a fascinating business you've created. You've both done all the work on the one side with Real Tax that really helps the municipalities recover property taxes. And so you're helping the cities and you're helping all of us because you're hopefully reducing taxes that we would otherwise be paying because you're collecting the property taxes. And then you're actually in the end realizing greater value for both, I guess, the municipality as well as the owners, because they're going to get the residual, I presume, after the sale of the collection of the property taxes and any other mortgages or other liens that are against the property. Sounds like a great business. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just 2 minutes with Jeff and understand what it's like for us if we were actually thinking about buying one of these properties, which I think is a really fascinating opportunity as well. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Jeff Oberman, who has two different companies. One is called Real Tax, and the other one is OntarioTaxSales.ca. That really, I think, is an interesting business combination, because what he does is he helps municipalities collect the arrears of property taxes on different properties in their municipalities. Takes them through a whole year-long process of doing so. But then he also markets them far better when they're ultimately put up for sale. Jeff, I got to ask you, what about the other side of things, and that is actually buying? What makes buying a tax sale property attractive? Oh,
the price. When a municipality puts a property up for tax sale, they can't just say, we want this much money. They have to follow the legislation. The legislation says there's a minimum sale price, which is the amount of taxes owing plus any costs the municipality incurred trying to collect those taxes. So say you've got $1 million property, typical property in the GTA. Say the tax arrears are $20,000 and maybe there's $4,000 in costs incurred. So that $1 million property would go up for tax sale with a minimum sale price of $24,000. There's another side to it. Most mortgages or liens are wiped out by a tax sale. So say the Bank of Montreal had a $500,000 mortgage on that property. After tax sale, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. So look, that combination makes tax sales pretty attractive.
Okay, so hold on a second. So if there's $24,000 of taxes and fees on a house that is worth $1 million and it sells for a couple $100,000, who gets the difference between the 24,000 and the couple $100,000?
Good question. That gets paid into court, and then it sits there. The former owners can claim that money from the court, or somebody who held a mortgage can claim the money, and a judge will decide who gets the money. If nobody applies for it, it goes to the office of the public guardian, and the trustee can apply for it 10 years later.
If 10 years later, my God, if a house is worth $1 million and there's let's say a $500,000 mortgage against it and $24,000 in property tax arrears, isn't the individual going to be smart enough to sell it themselves, or isn't the bank going to be smart enough to try to collect on the house value and the mortgage value and sell the house? Like, why does it go a full year before you end up triggering the sale?
Good question. Quite often, one of the risks of tax sales is maybe half the time or close to it, the owners come in at the last minute and pay the taxes, and the tax sale is canceled. As for whoever holds a mortgage, as part of the original process, after you register a lien, we have to send the mortgage holders notice by registered mail. So they have ample opportunity, if they want to foreclose, or if they want to refinance, do whatever it takes, so they're not going to lose their investment. So we send them a warning and then a final notice about 9 months later. So they have ample opportunity. When it actually goes up for tax sale, you kind of wonder why, because from the property owner's point of view, every alternative is better. Pay the taxes if you can. If you can't, refinance if you can. If you can't, sell it, because every outcome is better than losing at a tax sale.
Yeah.
But still they happen.
800 or 900 times a year. My God, it's incredible.
It's quite interesting, yeah.
Are there any good properties that go through this whole process and last and get sold by OntarioTaxSales.ca? Absolutely,
yeah. I picked out some of the best ones that I've ever seen over the years. One that happened in the GTA in York region. It is was 9.9 acres on Highway 48 in Mount Albert. So that's in the town of East Gwillimbury. The assessed value was $303,750. It sold for $36,000.
For 10% of the assessed value?
Correct.
On Highway 48, north of Markham. 48.
Want to hear an even better one?
Yes, please.
This is one of the best ever. This is about 10 years ago. In the municipality of Killarney, 91.3 acres of waterfront property on Georgian Bay, sold for $18,075.
And what would it have been worth? Any idea?
That I don't know.
How many acres? How many waterfront acres?
It's 91.3 acres.
91 acres sold for
$18,000. Good deal.
That's like $1,800 an acre.
Somebody got a real bargain on that one. I have another one here. 161 feet of frontage on Lake Huron, 1.02 acres in the municipality of Bluewater, over in Huron County, sold for $5,500.
$5,000 an acre. So we've got one for $5,000 an acre and one for $1,000 an acre. Unbelievable. So how do I do this? Where do I go? How do I look at? How do I find out? What do I got to do? Sounds wonderful.
As a matter of fact, you can go to OntarioTaxSales.ca. What our website does, it shows every upcoming tax sale in Ontario, right across the province. And usually they're only advertised anywhere from a week to maybe a month or so before the actual sale date.
Yeah.
There's a section in there, how to buy a tax sale property. You need to read that carefully. You really got to do your homework. And one thing you have to understand, and also on the website, you can see pictures of the properties and detailed information. Something you have to understand, though, is before you put in a tender, most done by public tender. So the advertisement will say tenders will be accepted till 3 p.m. on March 15th. You've got to have your tender in by that time. Oh, there we go.
Okay, I've got to have my tender in by some period of time.
Correct. If you're a minute late, your tender will be rejected. Or if you make certain mistakes on your tender, it will be rejected. You need to do a title search. You need to find out if there are any mortgages or liens that will affect the property after a tax sale. Now, say the Bank of Montreal has a mortgage. It's gone. It's wiped out by the tax sale. But anything in favor of the Crown, like a lien from Revenue Canada, that will still affect the property. So see that fantastic property that's worth $1 million, and you can buy it for $50,000, but there's a $2 million lien on it from CRA. You might want to think twice before you put in a tender on that one.
Why?
Because anything in favor of what's called the Crown, like Revenue Canada, will still exist after the tax sale.
So I'm buying something that's got another lien against it, effectively.
Exactly. So you need to have a title search done before you even put in your tender. The reason being, now say you put in your tender, and your tender has to include a certified check for at least 20% of the amount you're tendering. Now say you put in your tender, 3 o'clock on March 15th rolls around, and you find out that there's a $2 million lien on there from Revenue Canada, and you say, wait, I don't want to buy this property. You lose your deposit. So they're playing for keeps. So that's why you have to have a title search done before you even put in your tender. So you're saying, how do I get a title search done?
Yeah.
Funny you should mention that.
You provide that too, probably.
We do. You have to buy them, but we do it. We're really quick at it. We've had very experienced title searchers. Turnaround time is usually same day or next day. And the title search comes with just a one-page summary in plain English, not legalese. So anybody can understand it. Essentially, are there any interest in the property that will affect it after the tax sale? Yes or no?
Right.
The answer is yes. We say, yes, there's a lien from Revenue Canada for $2 million, and give the details of it. So then you can decide, okay, yes, I want to put a tender in, or yes, or no, I don't. But you need to do that ahead of time.
And I got to become a member to be able to access your tax sales on your website. Is that correct?
No, you can see most of the information without being a member. We have two types of properties. One is what we call our featured properties. You can see all the information, or almost all the information we have, without being a member. Then there are other properties called members only, where you have to be a member to see them. Also, we have information packages called info packs. And info packs are free for members, or the $25 for non-members. And also for members, we have the results of literally thousands of prior tax sales. So you can see pictures of the properties, how many tenders were submitted, what the assessed value was, what the sale price was. So you can kind of look for comparables.
Right.
Or
just you break it out into different areas. So if people want to look at different things, they can find different opportunities. Why wouldn't you provide this for everyone so that you don't have to become a member? Wouldn't you have more sales? But I guess that doesn't benefit you if it just gets sold. You want to actually get the fee.
Well, actually, when we first started out, membership was free initially, in order to get the word out there. You can only have a business model that operates for free for so long. Ultimately, you have to make money. So we make money from our membership fees, and also from selling title searches and from municipalities. But we need the money from the membership fees to have a viable business.
What a fascinating business that you've created, and it's actually providing a community service to the municipalities by doing this whole process of sending the information and putting on the lien and triggering the process, and then you're marketing the sale, and so ultimately, you're actually getting more value for the owners or the municipalities or the court that gets the funds for 10 years. So whoever it is that ends up benefiting, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Oh, please do, please do.
What's the best property you've bought, or have you bought one property from this?
Never bought one, never submitted a tender. To work at RealTax or OntarioTaxSales.ca, you cannot in any way participate in an attempt to buy a tax sale property anywhere in Ontario. Because on the RealTax side, we're advising municipalities on their tax sales. I'll give you a hypothetical situation. Say the treasurer of a town calls me up and says, Jeff, we're opening the tenders right now. I have one tender. I'm not sure if it's valid or not. Can you guide me? What if it's my tender?
Right.
Or what
So
if
it's
I
a
have the next
conflict of
highest
interest.
one? So actually have it in all of our employment agreements. If you try to buy a tax sale anywhere in Ontario, you're done. So no, I've never bought any, neither have any of my coworkers.
What a great business. What a great opportunity. I really appreciate you sharing it with us. It sounds kind of fascinating. How much does a membership cost?
It's $34.95 a month or $159.95 for a year.
And you just go to ontariotaxsales.ca and you can join up?
That's right. Yeah.
Excellent. Jeff Oberman, I really appreciate it. It's been interesting hearing about your business, and I think there's some interesting opportunities. And I just saw one that with 99 acres of land that were sold in Leeds Grenville for 85% of the 168,000 assessed value. So someone's getting it at a good 15% discount.
That's kind of, there's some ones that are way lower than that. That's kind of on the high side.
36 acres of waterfront property in Temiskaming.
That sounds pretty good. Okay.
You've got some really interesting properties here. Thanks so much for sharing it.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on.
We're going to take a break and come back with another interesting business story in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Jeff Oberman, really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.